And we are live on another edition of the K&K Sports Show. You ready for this, guys? One day before December. Is that insane?
Crazy.
November 30th. Tomorrow is December 1st, 2022. We've got our panel here. We're missing our boy Carson tonight. He'll be with us on Wits and Wages tomorrow. But I'll just start and say, hello, Mr. Ryan Scoop Woodhams. What's going on?
How you doing, Kurt? Hope everybody had a nice Thanksgiving. Hope everyone had, whether it was at home or they traveled, hopefully everyone had some nice family time and enjoyed those games. Of course, the second time this year that I root for the Giants, they once again can't come through for me. No, it's going to be back with everyone as always. I'm looking forward to the conversation tonight.
Mr. Rosen.
Good evening, everybody. I'll second Ryan's sentiments. Hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving as we turn the page into December and playoff football starts to formulate. So let's see what we're doing on the show tonight.
And Mr. Kirkpatrick, how are you?
I'm okay. I was a little under the weather for a few days, but good to be back with you guys tonight. And got a fun little NFL college football show for you guys tonight.
I just want to echo what you guys said. Hope everyone had a happy Thanksgiving. Our Thanksgiving was great. I give Jen all the credit in the world. She did all the cooking. But I helped. I didn't get in any trouble that day, which is good, boys. I'm learning. And I almost forgot you guys are going to laugh at me. Kenny's going to love this. So it's almost a week now, right? Thanksgiving would have been a week tomorrow. I go into the fridge to get a water. I'm like, we still have chocolate mousse cake. So what do you think I had for dessert tonight? A little mousse cake.
Oh, yeah.
And let's go. Let's go. So, Mr. Kirkpatrick, what do you want to do? I got some college football if you want to start with that tonight.
That sounds good, Kurt. Let's start with college football. I agree. I like that.
All right, so I got a couple quick hitters, and I want to get into a little discussion with you guys. But I'm going to start Paul. I'll go Paul, Ryan, and Kenny. That's how you're on my screen. We're going to do quick hitters. We'll do some quick hitter answers. Right now, Georgia, Michigan, TCU, USC. Question number one: If all four teams win this weekend, are they in the playoff? Paul.
Absolutely.
Ryan.
I think so. The only way I can see it otherwise is if somehow, I'm not saying this as a fan, but if somehow they find a way to sneak Bama in, which as a Bama fan, let me express, I don't believe that they should be in, but I see all this stuff going on around, like, well, if Bama does this, they can find a way. I don't think they should be in, but barring an edge case like that, I believe that yes.
Okay, I am going to echo both of you guys. If all four win, all four should get in. And Mr. Kirkpatrick.
Win and in. It's simple.
Okay, question number two now. Who are the four best teams in college football? Not deserving. In your opinion, who are the four best teams in college football?
Georgia, Michigan. You may disagree. They're undefeated. I'm going to say TCU. They play who's on the schedule, so I don't want to hear that they may have a soft schedule. And I'm going to put. I know Ohio State. You can say Ohio State, but I'm going to put USC.
All right.
Those are mine.
I will go next to start the controversies. My four best teams in the country: Georgia, Alabama, Michigan, and this would have been easier if the quarterback didn't get hurt, but I'm going to put Tennessee. Those are my four best teams in the country. Mr. Ryan Scoops. Again,
Georgia,
just total your best.
I know.
If you had to say your best.
I know. So Georgia, I think, is pretty undisputed as the number one right now, as much as I hate it. I think Michigan, number two. And then I think 3 and 4 are some combination of the Buckeyes the Buckeyes and Alabama. You can put, whichever order you want. But I think it's those two after that.
Okay. Kenny.
I'm gonna go Georgia, Michigan. I'm going TCU because of the schedule they play. They're playing a good schedule. They're, right now they're undefeated in a good with a good schedule. And I'm sorry, USC's defense drops them out of the top four. Alabama's in the top four for me.
Okay. If
Did you want a specific order?
No,
Right.
just four best teams. Okay, if USC loses, okay, we're all under the assumption that Georgia, Michigan are 100% locks, even if they lose, which we're going to get into that later. TCU, unless they get blown out, unless they lose by 21 points, even in a close loss, they're probably still going to be in. The one team they're saying is USC, right? They'll have 2 losses, no conference championship. So if they lose, Paul, you going with Ohio State, Alabama, or Tennessee, and why?
If they lose, I'm not going with Tennessee. Hooker is out, and to get blown out by South Carolina, they're not going to be in there, in my opinion. So then it comes down to Alabama and Ohio State. And I think if Ohio State had shown up in the second half, and it would have been a closer game, I would have said, okay, maybe Ohio State sneaking in, but I think I would put Alabama as that 4th team.
You know what? Our good friend Matt Staffiero, Broncos are a mess. Kenny, you know what? Let's do it, Kenny. You moderate it. We got to get on a pod with our Bronco guys. Me, Matt, we got to do a Bronco pod. We really need one, Kenny.
I'll moderate.
All right, we got to do it, Matt. We got to set this up. All right, I'm going to go to mine, and this is reason why. Okay? You're right, Paul. Tennessee, you can't get beat like that against South Carolina. I'm sorry. I know they beat Clemson. I know Kenny was, watching that game intently, but I'm sorry. Embarrassing, giving up 50-something points. But even worse is Ohio State. I'm sorry. You are at home, and you're playing Michigan after all I heard was 365 days ago. That's all they waited for. Wait until this year. Wait. Without Michigan's Heisman Trophy candidate there, and you give up 40-something points at home, that's embarrassing. You are not going. I know people are going to start with Alabama 2 losses. Listen, they lost literally on almost the last play of 2 road games against 2 top 10 teams. Okay? Alabama should absolutely be the team that goes in if USC falters. I can't see how Ohio State... I can't. What has Ohio State done? And at home, on a national television, they got embarrassed. So that's me. Ryan.
I mean, you pretty much just made this exact case I was going to make for Alabama. If USC, slides out, then their 2, quote unquote, their 2 losses were against, like you said, top 10 teams by a combined less than a touchdown. Like let's not act like Alabama lost to North North Wyoming State. They lost to 2 very good teams by negligible margins, one of which was in overtime.
And last plays of the game, right?
Right. So I full just looking at the numbers here, like you said, I have to say that it should be Alabama over the other 2. And I think I can do that without any discernible bias.
Matt is saying Georgia is going to go back-to-back, #gross. And I'll say this, disagree or not, I'm sorry. I think the only team that could beat Georgia is Alabama. I just don't think Michigan can. I think USC it would just be an absolute joke because they would give up about 400 yards rushing, like Kenny said. And TCU, same thing. So I think Alabama's the only team that can beat them. Kenny, what about you? USC loses. Ohio State or Alabama, Tennessee?
Throw a little thing out Matt's way. Colorado heard that Deion Sanders got a call for the Colorado job.
Yeah.
Highly doubt he's going to take it. But when Matt's thoughts on Deion Sanders
Kenny,
coming to the Buffaloes.
Did you see they said the 3 teams he's down to?
No, I didn't see
Colorado, South Florida, and your Cincinnati Bearcats.
Mm. Yeah.
Please go to the Bearcats.
That's what they said. His three are, and somebody said
Well,
by this
I
week.
Remember, Cincinnati's going
No.
to the Big 12. So that would not be a bad move
Yeah.
for Dion. He'd be in a Power 5 there. So remember that.
But you know what? If he goes to South Florida, that puts him after 2 or 3 years then to go to Florida State and come home. Just saying.
Matt's saying he's got an offer in place. It's supposedly down to Cincinnati or Colorado. Sounds like Chadwell is going to South Florida. Like you're saying, Kenny, I mean, I'm going to Colorado or Cincinnati. I mean, they're a big, you know.
The question, though, Kurt, I'm going to throw, like you, I'm going to throw Alabama in there over Ohio State. I've said it on Wits and Wagers. The Ohio State team struggled for the whole month of November. Against Northwestern, struggle. Maryland, who couldn't score a point against Penn State, scored, almost beat them, had them beat the last couple minutes of the game, was right in that game with Ohio State. And then Michigan took it to them. So the whole month of November, Ohio State's been losing, but not losing, but struggling. And where's their big statement win? Penn State. Notre Dame had a down year.
Right.
You know, you can't say Notre Dame's a statement win. Penn State's their statement win. I'm taking Alabama with more statement wins with one extra loss over Ohio State.
Yep.
And Tennessee, I'm not putting them in because Hooker's out. And how much of an attraction is that going to be if they allow Tennessee in the playoff?
All right,
Can
Mike.
I just-
Sorry, Paul.
No, I just wanted to say one thing about the Ohio defense. It was shocking to me watching it how they never got out of their defense.
Nope.
That they played the whole game. There was no adjustments in the second half, which was amazing to me. That somebody didn't say, "Listen, we have to get out of this defense and play more zone."
But you know what, Paul? And we talk about it all the time. And you know, sometimes you guys laugh at me with the run the ball, play defense. Just Michigan, because they could run the ball and because they're just even like, you know, we're going to run the ball. That's why those guys are wide open because, like you're saying, they have to play man because, you know, then you got Ohio State who just won't run the ball. It's just, you know, we're going to throw it 70 times, and that stuff just doesn't work. That's why if USC plays Georgia, seriously, take out something on your house because it's going to be like, it's how are they going to stop Georgia's? It's going to be the same thing. Caleb Williams is going to run around. They're going to throw it 70 times. Georgia's going to just, and it's going to, it's going to be something like 54-6. That's why I don't want to see USC in it. I really don't. It's going to be a blowout. It is. USC couldn't stop. Who was I watching a couple of weeks ago? They couldn't stop somebody. I mean, you're not going to win like that in this college football playoff.
Can I just
Sure.
make one more statement and a comparison? I'm not saying he may not become a good pro, but watching Stroud play in that game and then watching the Alabama-Auburn game after that, and to see the difference between Bryce Young and Stroud was night and day. I mean, you just saw a kid who was poised, knew what he wanted to do with the ball, and did it too, and helped them, no doubt about it, win in their big game. So
you know what, Paul? Kenny says it every week, right? With the Ohio State quarterbacks. You guys think I'm joking? Like, seriously, I wouldn't even draft him if there was like, you know, USF, like he can't read the defense. You know, it's the same thing. In Ohio State it's regardless of who the quarterback was, Fields, who is the other guy? It doesn't matter.
Haskins.
Yeah, Haskins, you know, rest in peace. But it's just the way they scheme that up. It's just they're getting those guys just run free open and just throw in there. Anytime it's a tough game, those quarterbacks crumble. I would never take him. Everyone that says we're going to draft him, teams are out of their minds drafting him. What do you think, Kenny? Ohio State, would you tell me? I'm not drafting him.
I would never draft an Ohio State quarterback until you prove me wrong and somebody makes it. The list goes on, like 20 years, 30 years, we can go back and you can see all the Ohio State quarterbacks in the NFL, and you're going to see which one succeeded.
But,
you know, the best chance of succeeding right now is Justin Fields.
But Kenny, just think about this. Their system, right? They said, no, Joe Burrow can't play in our system. We'll take. I mean, they're nuts. Think about it. Joe Burrow couldn't play at Ohio
Right.
State over those guys.
And think about this. What does Ohio State always has? Always has receivers.
Oh, always
Receivers,
exactly. Marvin Harrison, the other. Come on, those.
So Garrett Wilson, Olave
Right.
was with,
Yeah.
you know.
Right.
And the kid who actually got injured and he had over 300, almost 350 yards in the Rose Bowl last year.
Yeah, they're just running free. But you know what? I'm gonna jump to this one right now before I get to it because I'm more fired up with this one. And my answer is gonna be absolutely yes. Ryan Day, okay? Because they were chanting. I don't know if you watched the post game. We want Urban. If he don't beat Michigan and he doesn't win a national title next year, Ryan Day is gone. Yes or no? I'm saying an emphatic yes. You're at Ohio State, man.
Yeah.
2 years in a row, embarrassed. No, what did they? We're gonna fix it in a year. Fix it. It was worse. I'm saying gone if he don't beat Michigan and win it next year. Paul, what do you say?
Well, I went into work next morning and a guy that I work with is a huge Michigan fan. And I said to him, if Ryan Day can lose all their games, they could be 0-11 going into the Michigan game. If he wins that game, he'll keep his job. If he loses that game, bye-bye.
Ryan.
I don't see how, you know, I think that the point that was just brought up is solid in terms of it having a lot of weight with that game. But I mean, he has just, you know, everyone was hyping him up as, you know, when he took over for Urban Meyer as, you know, he was going to be as good, if not better than Urban Meyer. And we just haven't seen that. And, you know, I think that they are going to have to look at alternate candidates if they don't make a serious run next year.
Kenny, you with me or against me?
I'm 100% with you. What I will say is, I don't know if he has to win a championship next year, but he better win the Big Ten next year
Okay.
and beat Michigan, number one on the list, like Paul said. Number two is you better. But the problem is why I won't have him win a championship this year. This was the year. Stroud, senior, the receivers loaded on defense. They're going to be losing a lot of players. This was their year, okay? But this is also Michigan's year. So we'll see who's going to come out in the Big Ten next year. But he better win. He better beat Michigan because that's 2 years in a row.
Hey, you know what? Didn't it happen to Harbaugh? Right? Remember last
Yep.
year? Harbaugh's out. If you
Yeah.
don't beat Ohio State, that's how it's little pressure on these guys, you know? Little
He took
pressure
a-
on these guys. Let's
He
go.
took a big pay cut, too.
Right. You took a big pay. They're paying you not to be 10-1 and losing to Ohio State. We want to be with the top dogs. And you know what? He did it. I got two more. First one, Paul. Caleb Williams. If they win the Pac-12, is he picking up the Heisman next week?
Well, I don't want to hurt myself by patting myself on the back, but I said this in August when we had the college football preview. I touted him as a sleeper Heisman, so I'm going to continue and say absolutely.
Ryan, they win on Friday night. Does he win the Heisman?
I think so. And honestly, even if they don't, I wouldn't be surprised if he still was able to. He's been on another level down the stretch.
Now, I'll tell you this, Kenny, before I get your answer. That's a guy, that's a quarterback I'm taking. I'm not taking Levens from Kentucky. I'm not taking Stroud. That's the guy I'm going to take next year. Is that
Kurt. Oh, whoops. Hello. Kurt, I just real quick, I did a quick look up right here when you mentioned Ohio State quarterbacks. The last quarterback that came out of Ohio State, aside from Justin Fields, who I'm looking at as was any sort of legitimate in the NFL, was probably the former Giants quarterback from the 90s. I just had his name up right here. It just went
Kent
off.
Graham.
Oh, Kent Graham. Yeah.
Kent Graham. He's the
Good-
last
good
one that
one,
I'm seeing.
Kenny.
Wow.
He's the last one that I'm seeing as any sort of, legitimate in the NFL coming out of Ohio State.
Don't mention that name to Kurt.
And you know what?
Ever.
He wasn't even the starting quarterback there. Yeah, really.
Well,
Don't ever mention
Ken
Ken Graham.
to a modern
Yeah.
tumor in 1998.
Ruined
Mr.
Kurt's
Kirkpatrick.
undefeated season.
Oh, whoops.
Best part,
That's
Paul. We
true.
were there. We were
Yep.
there, Paul.
So was I. Right. You're
We
right.
got-
We got sold fake tickets, and we had to go get real tickets.
Oh, I remember you
We were
telling me
in the
that story.
we were in the basement of Giant Stadium with the rest of the jailbirds.
There were people that get arrested.
We
True
saw about
story.
25 people with fake tickets and scalpers getting
yeah.
caught. And then we ran out and got tickets, come back, and the Giants pulled it out.
boy.
I'll never
Well,
forget
Sorry,
that
sorry
one.
for doing that.
Very long day for Mr.
Kenny,
Volpe.
before you answer, Matt Staffiero saying Williams will be the Broncos quarterback in 2024. You know, this is Matt in text messages for the last year. I want us to get my Patrick Mahomes. That's the only guy you're going to get. That guy, right? That's it. He's the next Patrick Mahomes. I don't want to hear Will Levens. I don't want to hear Stroud. I don't want to hear Hooker from Tennessee. Keep them all. Nope. That's the only guy he's the next best one is that guy Williams because he is ridiculous. So, Matt, if you want the next Mahomes, that's your only shot because other than that, you ain't getting one for a long, long time. Kenny, does he win the Heisman?
I think he wins it now. If Blake Corum was healthy, Blake Corum would have had an excellent chance of getting this Heisman Trophy. But I think Blake Corum getting hurt his chances and increased Caleb Williams' chances by far to get the Heisman Trophy.
Okay.
I've watched him play too, and the guy is he's the best. He's the best player in college football.
That's a franchise quarterback. That's a franchise quarterback right there.
Mm-hmm.
Paul, my Auburn Tigers, Hugh Freeze from Liberty, the next Auburn coach. You like it or no?
Oh my goodness! I saw that. My first reaction was, "What the hell is Kurt thinking about this?" I mean, retread all of these personal issues. I mean, wasn't there someone else that they could get rather than Hugh Freeze and bring him back? No, I don't like it.
Ryan.
Oh,
sorry, Paul.
No, I was going to say if I'm an Auburn fan, I would not be happy if they bring him in as head coach.
Ryan.
I mean, I'm an Alabama fan, but to put that aside, yeah, I think when you had what you had a week or two ago when it was, the lines were drawn, it was Lane Kiffin, he was the guy and all of that. And then you have it being Hugh Freeze. It reminds me of those commercials a few years ago where you had Rob Lowe, who had DirecTV, and then Rob Lowe, who had cable.
Right.
There's just what a, in my opinion, what a drop off for Auburn in terms of ending up with Hugh Freeze, but their management must see something that a lot of us don't right now.
I'll just say this when it comes down to Auburn, right? Like football there, like, and these people, and I mean the boosters, are just so passionate about this sport. And listen, it hurts when your rival and your neighbor is Alabama and it's national title, lose a national title, but you're in the playoff every year. You lose 2 games. It's like the ceiling's falling down like for this year. They still lost 2 games by like less than 7 points. And you know what? We just don't have the problem with Auburn is listen, you could bring Bill Belichick in there. College football is all about recruiting and the players, right? And they don't have that. Like that was a mismatch on Saturday because of the talent level. You got 5 stars against 3 stars. So what is you Freeze? Is he somebody that I'm gonna go and say he's a great guy? No, he's not. But he could recruit. He beat Nick Saban twice. And that's what those people want. Like they're basically, it's like they sold their soul. We don't care. We want somebody who's going to win. Listen, I wanted Lane Kiffin, but Hugh Freeze was probably my second choice. But Lane Kiffin was my first. But when you really look at Lane, I mean, he bottled out the Raiders, right? Tennessee, whatever happened, he got thrown out of there. He's not, again, but everyone loves him because he's an offensive guy and he recruits, right? So, we're going to see. He's big in the portal. He does, but Matt Staffiero's thing, he did develop quarterback. But with Hugh Freeze, it's an SEC. They were definitely hiring somebody that has SEC experience, okay? He did go 10-2. But the biggest thing is he's going to recruit. He can go up to Nick Saban. He can go recruit against a Kirby Smart. And that's just something they haven't had, right? Cadillac Williams, and I love him, and he's staying on as associated coach. He's not going to recruit against those two guys. And every year when you're getting your head slammed in because of the talent level, it's not the coaching, it's just that their talent is so much better.
Hey, Kurt,
They
can I
had
read
to,
it?
they had to do something like that. I don't know if I like the guy. I'm not saying I like him, but I understand Auburn had to do it.
Can I read a quote that I read earlier
Sure.
this week about it? It said, ditching Cadillac Williams for Hugh Freeze is like finding $1,000 you forgot was hidden in your sock drawer and immediately using it to buy crypto. So
No, I'm going to be honest. You know what it is? They said it's not going to happen in year one, but year two, year three, if he brings them an SEC championship, that stuff. It's sad to say, but that stuff's going to be forgotten. It really is. It's because it's all about winning. You know, it's all. Listen, they forget.
Yeah.
Everybody forgets about Lane Kiffin, right? And all the stuff he did. Urban Meyer was even on is on a different level. But you don't think if Urban Meyer, they were chanting, I swear to God, watch the highlight. They were chanting, we want Urban Saturday after Ohio State. They would take him back tomorrow because it's about winning. It's about getting to the playoff. And especially you got to go against Georgia and Alabama, the 1 and 2 recruiting classes every year, the two best coaches in college football. And you got to go get players like that. You got to get somebody that's going to go in that door and say, let's go. We'll beat them. And Hugh Freeze can do that. Again, I don't like it with the guy and his personality and all the baggage, but I understand what Auburn did. Kenny, what's your thoughts?
No, you nailed it, Kurt. I agree with you. It had to be an SEC guy. I don't hate the move. You made the right move over Matt Rule. Matt Rule might have been a popular pick with a lot of people, but he doesn't have SEC experience. Yeah, he's turned 2 programs around, but what happened when he went to the NFL? So you don't know what kind of Matt Rule you're going to get over at Nebraska. Cincinnati head coach over to Wisconsin. He's got no big conference ties. So, there's 2 guys right there. Deion Sanders, he's a popular guy too, but he's got no big coaching experience. It had to be an SEC guy. So Lane Kiffin, I had a feeling wasn't leaving Ole Miss. He's got a nice little program building over there, and he's making good money over there. So I didn't think he was going to leave Ole Miss. I still think he's the next Alabama head coach when Saban decides to retire. So I think that's that. But I see Hugh Freeze, give him the 3-year window. It's got to be just like Cristobal in Miami. We're having a terrible year, but this is Manny Diaz's Miami Hurricanes, not Mario Cristobal's.
Right.
Year 2, you start getting your system in play. Year 3, your players start to play. So give them a couple years, and I see Auburn turning it around. I think it was a solid B, maybe B minus, but I'll give it a B as a grade on the higher.
Okay.
Solid B.
My last thing, Kenny, and me and you talked about this, and I promise this will be it for college football. But, this is the only thing, and we talked about this today, Kenny, about going into a 12-team tournament and all that kind of stuff. Last Saturday, I'm sitting there watching. I have Ohio State, Michigan on one TV, the Clemson, South Carolina game. And within, at about 3:30 in the afternoon, you're sitting there and you're like, oh my God, Ohio State and Clemson are out of the playoffs. Just like that. We watched the playoff game, Michigan, Ohio State, winners in, losers out. And I just fear that, that's what I love about college football. Is it gonna, is there 12 teams? Yeah, okay, 12 teams are going to be in it. So can Auburn have a better chance to get in? Yeah. But the problem is, think about all the, even this week, if USC loses, one of those teams is going to go. If TCU gets blown out, are they going to be out? If it's 12 teams, they're all in. Alabama's in. Ohio State's in. Tennessee's in. What's the excitement? What's the conference championship games? You're just going to lose last Saturday. And then when we're watching that, now it's okay, so Clemson goes down, Ohio State goes down. Now you're all right, 7:30. If Notre Dame knocks off USC, Bama's back. Bama's back in. So you got all fans like Ryan insists, let's go, Notre Dame. Let's go. Get this done. And the game's close a little there, and you're at the edge of your seat where, If it's 12 teams, what excitement is it? You're gonna reward a team that just gave up 48 points at home. You're gonna reward a team, Tennessee, that gave up 56 points. It's just gonna be such watered down. Like, yeah, the games are gonna be great, and now more teams for in it, but they don't deserve it. And the excitement of college football, of any week, 1 week, you're done. You get knocked out. Like, again, I'm saying Alabama, but second best team in the country, lost whatever, 3 points and whatever, 2 points. They're going to be out because of how this is. They're out, which is crazy. But with 12 teams, I just think it's going to lose all the excitement. Paul, what's your thoughts on that?
I don't necessarily disagree with you, but let me just compare it, if I can, for a second, to the NFL, where over the last, 3, 4, 5, 10 years, they've added more teams to the playoffs. And they added that extra team, 2 teams last year to the playoffs in the NFL. And you could argue that last year's playoffs may have been, and let me just say this, everybody's plays everybody nowadays. Okay. It's never, the AFC plays the AFC and the NFC plays the NFC years and years ago. But you could argue last year's playoffs, almost every single game was as good a playoff game and playoff series, including the Super Bowl, as any year I've ever watched football. So if you use that same idea that the more teams are getting in, it waters it down a little. But last year in the NFL, in fact, it didn't. If anything, it made it even more exciting. So I understand where you're coming from. And yeah, does the end of year playoff last game, like an Ohio State, Michigan, may lose some of it? Both those teams will still play hard, even though they know in the back of their minds they may get in. But the bottom line is that I think it still sets up a very good 12-team playoff.
And my last thing, and I laughed, and I apologize, Mr. Kirkpatrick, because about 2 years ago, you made a statement on this show, and I said, you're crazy. And you said, hey, the conference champion should be in. And you know what? That's maybe something they got to do. Because you know what? Those games have to mean something. So if Purdue meets Michigan, you know what, Purdue, you're the Big Ten champ, you get in. And you know what? Because I'm not rewarding Tennessee to give up 56 points. I'm not rewarding all these teams. So make those games matter. Hey, if the ACC, North Carolina wins, you go. You go.
But does LSU, if they somehow beat Georgia,
yeah,
they get
but I'm
in?
saying with 12 teams,
With
not
12
now.
teams.
With 12 teams.
Okay.
With 12
With 12,
teams.
not now, but with
All right.
12,
Every conference champion
every
should
conference
go.
champion in.
It'll
You
be
know
like
what?
it'd be like the NCAA playoffs, the
Right.
basketball
Yes.
playoffs.
Yeah. You know what? It's like the bubble watch. You know what? If there's an upset, then a team that's ranked number 12 doesn't get in.
Right.
You know, the team that would get that last spot
Don't
because
get in.
Purdue upset Michigan. You know what? Maybe Penn State's out at number
Yep.
10, and you know what? Should have gotten to your conference championship.
You're right, Kenny. Brian,
So
what's
that's
your
it.
thoughts on that?
So, because I was, Paul mentioned the expansion of the NFL playoff. I was thinking similarly, but I was thinking with MLB playoff. But in terms of like, I'm just if I take Alabama's schedule, like we're talking games. They played Utah State and won by 55. They played Louisiana Monroe and won by 56, if I'm doing the math correctly. Like some of these games, like what you're not getting, and this was some coach, it may have actually been Coach Saban, I don't quite remember, but some coach was mentioning this earlier in the year, where just there's so many games that you play where you're just not playing teams on your level that I think, whether you're doing it with 4 teams or whether you're doing it with, 12 teams or somewhere in between, I think that's something that has to be reconciled more is, how are you judging these teams based on playing with clearly, like you don't have teams like that or games like that in the NFL or any major sports league really, where you're dealing with talent that's so drastically disparate that you're having these games finished by, when's the last time you saw a 60-point or a 50-point game in the NFL? It just doesn't happen. So I think that's something that has to be looked at more. If you're looking at competitive balance, more so than the number of teams that are getting into the playoff, because I think there's significantly less of a gap between team 5 and team 12 than there is between, any of these top 12 teams and some of the teams that are on their schedule every year. You're making the decision of who's going to get in by 11 based on how teams play against, Northwest, North Dakota
Right,
State.
right,
it's,
right.
it's just like, I remember being on the phone with you, Kurt, a couple weeks ago. I think it was you. Maybe it wasn't. But I was on the phone with somebody, and Alabama had just beat. I think it was called Austin Peay.
Austin Peay.
I had never even heard of that school in my life. I'm like, who the f- is that? So
Right. No.
that's my take. That's my take on that matter.
All right, Mr. Kirkpatrick. I don't know if you want anything else college football. That's all I got for you guys. So
No, that was good, Kurt. That was good. We'll college. We'll see what happens this week. But the 12 teams, I think, is going to be good because you know what? I'll just add this: strength of schedule should come into play when you have a 12-team format.
That
Let's
I
say
agree with.
you have an upset. Let's just say Purdue. Let's say this is a 12-year team, the 12th team this year. Purdue upsets Michigan. Purdue's in now with the conference championship. Michigan still gets in because it's their only loss. Now you look at who's down the line, and you're like, am I going to put Penn State in, or am I going to put Oregon in? Who's got the stronger schedule? If
Right.
Oregon has the stronger schedule and they're ranked number 11 or number 12, sorry, Penn State, you should have played a tougher schedule.
right.
That's how, it's going to get interesting, I think, in that sense. And I hope they use strength of schedule because I have no problem. And I talked with Sis about this, and I'm sure I talked to you guys too as well. This, I don't have the problem with the Alabamas playing these Austin Peays, Clemson playing the Citadel, but play them early in the season as your preseason schedule before your conference starts. Because if this was a 12-team year this year,
Right.
Alabama's on the bubble. As good as they are, they're on the bubble because their last game is Austin Peay and then Auburn. You can't be playing Austin Peay at the end of the year when you need a meaningful game going forward. That's my opinion on that. Going forward.
Okay.
All right.
You know what?
Go ahead.
What I was going to say, the college football should do what the NFL does now, where a lot of their late games are in their divisions. Let them play in their conference. Let them play in their divisions. And that way, those last few 2, 3, 4 games are going to settle the conference and the divisions in each of their conferences. Maybe that would help as opposed to playing in Austin Peay the second to last game of the year.
Yep. Guys, want to move on to some NFL?
Sure.
Got about
Sure.
45 minutes left. So we've had a couple of Thanksgiving Day games were pretty good, but in general, I think the past 2-3 weeks have been pretty blah schedule. So I looked at this week's schedule and I found 6 games that have either teams already not locked in the playoffs, but in the playoffs right now, or playoff scenarios on the lines here with this game. So I figure we could just talk about each game for a few minutes. I'll give each one of you guys a game, and we'll piggyback. Because I got 6 games here, and we'll make a prediction. No point spreads. We'll just make a prediction on who we think is going to win the game. My screen is Kurt, Paul, Ryan. So I'll give Kurt the first game I got on the list. That's tomorrow's game, Kurt. Patriots Bills. What are you expecting to see out of that game? And then give me a winner at the end of what you want.
You know what? I think we're going to see almost kind of what we saw on Thanksgiving with the Detroit Lions and the Buffalo Bills. I think it's going to be a very close game. I'm not going to say it's a must-win for New England, but it's getting close for their playoff berths. And by the way, rumor today, there was a tweet. And I think we said it last week, do not be shocked if next year's quarterback for New England is Thomas Brady. They said it's a free agent, Mr. Brady, and they said they would trade Mac Jones, and I would be the first one to say, pack your bags and get out of here because you're not an NFL franchise quarterback. So I would get Brady any day of the week. But for tomorrow, Mr. Kirkpatrick, I think they're going to kind of slow this game down, New England. They're going to want to run it, knock it in a shootout. They can't score a lot of points, try to win it defensively. But I'm going to go just like it was Thanksgiving. New England in the lead. Late, here comes Josh Allen. 3 to 4 point win for Buffalo. And again, Josh Allen versus Mac Jones, that's just where that matchup to me is that's where it's the no-brainer. I'm going to go with Buffalo.
Paul, you want to add anything and then give your pick?
I'll go with Buffalo. I think Kurt did a very good synopsis of the game. I think it will be close also.
No Damian Harris, by the way, for
Yes.
New England. So I'm going to go Buffalo as well in the game. And Ryan, anything to add, or you just want to make the pick? And then we'll move on to our next game.
I'm still Buffalo is not playing the way that they were playing earlier in the season. I can't quite put my finger on why, aside from the couple of rough games that Josh Allen had. But I'm not comfortable taking Buffalo in this game based on recent performance. I'm going to take New England for the upset.
Nice. I'm going to piggyback to you on
Okay.
the next game. Tennessee Titans, off a disappointing loss to the Cincinnati Bengals at home, are traveling to Ryan's 9-1 Philadelphia Eagles. Ryan, I'll let you talk about this game for a couple minutes, and then I think I know what your pick is going to be, but you want to just announce it for the show.
Well, first and foremost, it's 10-1. But
Rub it in.
in all seriousness, no, the Titans are one of my most disappointing teams this year. I mean, I know they're 7-4. They've kind of righted the ship from a poor start, but they've just lost a couple of games that I don't understand how why they lost, or games have been closer than I feel like they should have been. Tannehill is starting to play better, and I know they've been having a little bit of an injury bug for part of the season, but I did think that Tennessee would have a better season than they've had so far. But Philadelphia, I'm waiting on sort of a trap game. I don't really consider the Washington loss that. I'm waiting on sort of a trap game for Philly. I feel like it's coming. I don't think this is going to be it though. I think Philly matches up too well. They're at home. Tennessee is going to have to go north and play in Philly. Philly, it's not supposed to be the best weather this weekend. So I do think the Eagles are going to win this game. It's not a favorable matchup in my opinion for Tennessee, and I expected to see more out of them so far this year, even though, like I said, they have been playing better recently.
Sure.
I agree with Ryan to the effect that I don't like the matchup at all for Tennessee. Tennessee is like dangerous versus a team like the Chiefs, right? They always play the Chiefs good. Why? Because the Chiefs still can't stop the run. They want, they're going to finesse you. And, here comes the big bully Tennessee. The problem is Philly's defense is a bully too. So it's like, they're not just going to line up and give the ball 30 times to Derrick Henry against, you're not going to do that against Philly, especially at Philly. Philly's a legit defense. So I just don't like the matchup like that. I don't think they're going to hold Philly's offense to like 17, 20 points. So, where are they going to score, 23 to 30 points with Ryan Tannehill? I don't like the matchup for them at all. Not that I don't like them. Again, like if I'm like a team like Kansas City or even Buffalo, I don't want to play them because that's those kinds of teams are going to beat those teams. But Philly, well equipped, they run the ball, they play great defense. I think Philly beats them.
I will say just real quick, I can't go into this or can't come out of this game seeing some of what I saw against Green Bay and Washington, where the run defense just gets lackadaisical. And I know that Jordan Davis has been out, but you can't let an offense that's led by Derrick Henry on the rushing attack. You can't let some of these guys that they have in the backfield go and just run 200 yards on you. You can't get beat at your own game against Tennessee.
Oh,
Yeah, at this game, I have a pool that I'm at in work. I'm participating in, and my first thought was, Derrick Henry, as Ryan just said, the Eagle defense. They just signed a couple of big studs in the middle, Ndamukong Suh and Jonathan Hankins, and because they know their run defense has not been that good, and obviously with a guy like Derrick Henry, you got to worry he's gonna put up a $150 or a $175 on you. And initially, I picked Tennessee, but then the more I thought about it, they're going to be home. They're going to be getting ready for the Giants next week. And I think the Eagles are going to prove that they are the class of the NFC by beating the Titans. And I think they're going to do just enough. It's going to be a close game, in my opinion, but I think they're going to do just enough to win a 27-23, 27-24 type of game.
I'm 100% with Paul on the score prediction and everything he said. Now, Kurt, I think he's probably going to be a firm believer in this. He might agree with me on this. If Tennessee was in NFC West, NFC East, AFC West, AFC East, or even want to say the AFC North, Tennessee might pull this upset out. Tennessee's just got to keep their guys healthy, and they're in the playoffs. They're not going for the number one seed. They got Miami, Buffalo, the Ravens are ahead of them now. We're tied with them, and of course the Chiefs are ahead of them. They just got to get in the playoffs and keep Derrick Henry healthy. And that's about it.
You know what it is, Kenny? It's kind of like both worlds, right? Because if I'm playing against, especially in the AFC with all these quarterbacks, I'm like, I'll play against Ryan Tannehill any day of the week. The problem though is just the way they play. They're just listen, they'll just come. They're first and 10, run. That's how they do it.
You get a 15 to 20 degree game in December or January,
right?
And that favors Tennessee with Derrick Henry.
By the way, Eddie Murphy saying good evening, gentlemen. Looks like he's back on Facebook, Mr. Murphy.
Murphy's back.
Good evening.
Murphy's Law. I love it.
So
Philly's going to win this one, in my opinion. Close, like Paul said. If Tennessee was in a tougher division, Tennessee might be playing for this game harder, if that makes any sense. That's what we're going to see. But I'm going to go Philly as well. Paul's going to get this next game. It features the red-hot Washington Commanders and the not-so-hot our New York Giants. Paul, I'll let you start with this one, and then we'll go around the table.
I'm gonna put a rhetorical question out there. Is this a must-win game for the Giants? And I say that because knowing the Giants' schedule over the next 5 weeks after this game, Washington at home, then the Eagles at home, and then they have the Eagles on the road, they have the Vikings on the road, they have Washington on the road, they have the Colts at home. Giants may not have too many opportunities in the next 5-6 weeks to win games, and this is a kind of game that, in my opinion, is a must-win. As Brian Dable said, the season starts this week. This is game one of their new season. So they've got to go back to what they've been doing, running with Saquon, getting Daniel into that RPO mode, using his legs more. I don't know what the weather's going to be in the Northeast on Sunday, but they've got to come back to do what they do. Now, you got to give all the credit to the Commanders. Henke has been put in, and he has been phenomenal. He particularly is a pain in the you-know-what to the Giants in the 4 or 5 games that he's played over the last few years against them. They have a good team. They may be getting Chase Young back, which is another possibility, which adds to their defense. Their defensive line, I think they're second to the Cowboys in sacks this year. And I think they've had the most pressure on quarterbacks out of any team in football. So this is no gimme game. This is going to be a very, very difficult game. Another close game, in my opinion, maybe a 2017, 2016 kind of game, maybe a 17-14 kind of game. I'm hoping the Giants can pull it out, and I'll go with the Giants at home.
Ryan. You there, Ryan?
Yes, I apologize.
That's okay.
My net's been kind of clicking in and out. So yeah, no, the Giants have been playing, a lot better than a lot of people, including myself, expected. Going into this one, Washington is no joke. I can say that from having watched them a couple weeks ago. Fantastic defense. This is, I think, going to be a major test for Daniel Jones. Has he really taken that next level going up against this pass rush, and against the defensive front that Washington boasts? I think also Washington having Gibson questionable may potentially be a relevant factor in this game. I am going to narrowly take Washington just because I don't know that I can foresee Daniel Jones outdoing what that defensive front can put up. But I think this is going to be a close game, but I am going to take the Commanders.
Fair enough. It's a fair pick. I'll go next, Kurt, and then I'll let you.
Real quick, couple of comments before you go. Eddie Murphy, must win for the Giants, definitely. All I want for Christmas is for the Giants to score over 30 and win. Kafka has to step up with the play calling. Giants are second in pressure. Washington's first.
Must win. The closest thing to a must win, in my opinion. But because you have so much season left, I'm going to say not 100% a must win. I have scenarios where the Giants get 4 wins out of their last 7 and clearly in. 3, I think, gets them in, but we'll get to that later on. Big player coming back for the Giants on defense. Azeez is back. I believe he'll be playing this week. It looks like he's a go. Offensive line is starting to get healthy. We're getting players back. A sleeper guy, and we need help in the secondary. Tony Jefferson is back. Those are 2 guys and a couple of guys on the line coming back. We'll see if Neal is back, Paul, another guy. So we're getting players back in a must-win, closest thing to a must-win game for the Giants. And I think the defense is going to step up in this game and force Heineke to make a mistake. And, we've been struggling a little bit on defense with these last couple of quarterbacks we faced, but I think this is the type of quarterback we can get with our defense to make a mistake. And I think Saquon Barkley gets back into form in this game, and we win a close one, like Paul says, like 23-20. I'll say about like a field goal or less victory by the Giants, Kurt.
Mr. Calderio, good evening, gentlemen. Let's go Michigan. I know one guy happy on last Saturday.
That's it. Let's bring some of that Michigan luck to the Giants, Mark. Let's go.
So let me, again, listen,
I should say Mark should save some of his Michigan luck for the Giants.
I was fired up last week, and, I don't get the smiles and the happiness, like now this is the real season, right, Mr. Dable? You got to win, I understand. Well, they're supposed to win 6 games and they win 7, but nobody with a straight face on January 2nd, or I'm sorry, I think it's January 9th this year, when week 17 happens. And if the Giants have just lost, 9 out of 10 going into an off season, saying we were successful year 1, when obviously if you lose that 9 out of 10, you don't have your future quarterback, so you're not paying him. You got to decide, am I going to pay Saquon Barkley? You got 0 offensive weapons. You have a coach that lost 9 out of 10, who isn't averaging 20 points a game, supposed to be an offensive guru. And you're last place in the NFC East, where you got Philly and Hurts. They're not going anywhere. Dallas might be the best roster in the NFC. And Washington, that offense is loaded. So how successful is that season? I can't just wrap my head around of, everything's good in Giant land. It's not. The Giants got to. I got 2 players for the next 7 games that I'm watching. Daniel Jones and Geno Smith. Oh, we got Geno. Here's Geno. Let's see if Geno collapses. Let's see what Daniel Jones wants a contract. This is where you're going to get it, bud. Not last year when you have 3 wins. This year right now, playoff run. This is where you earn your money. If he can't do it, gone. Geno, draft the quarterback, probably from the Bronco pick, but draft the quarterback. But listen, this team, I don't want to use Kenny's famous word frauds, but they weren't a good 7-2 team. And now we're seeing it. And now it's like, well, we got to win, this game. They're not going to be favored in any of these games going forward. They're not favored this week. What does that tell you? So do I think they could win this week? They better. They better, or this thing's going to go south fast. But my whole point is all the smiles and what a season. If you're, 8-9, losing 9 out of 10 going into the offseason, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how anybody could smile about any team. So
Kurt,
they got to win.
And we'll still have more wins than the Broncos.
That's
this year.
fine. That's fine. But I will say this. You give me Russell Wilson, a top 5 defense, a new coach, and my weapons over in the offseason, I'm taking that over than what the Giants got. This is big for the Giants. This isn't, just like it is, just when you look across the river with the Jets, right? And you look and you say, oh, you better make playoffs. This is what, year 2 for Salah? Year 2?
Yep.
Everything changed, right? Oh, no playoffs? You better not. Listen, your job's on the line, boys. Oh, okay, let's get Mike White. He's got to do something now. Dable's an offensive coach. They can't score 20 a game. He's got to change that. He's got to change it. So that's all I'm going to say.
I will say this because I'd be a fraud if I didn't say this. Okay. We were winning games. We were 7-2. Okay. I watched a lot of the Giant games, and I watched the play call. Okay. If you lose, maybe let's just throw a scenario out there. Giants lose 2 more games in a row. Dable should take over the play call and shake things up. I'll say that right out here on the air. Shake things up. I'm going to take over the play call, and Kafka's going to concentrate on Daniel Jones, the quarterback.
It's still Dable's offense, though.
But Kafka's calling the plays. So, what I saw this week against the Cowboys was something I didn't see all year, and I was taking shots downfield. So the plays are there. Do they want to run the ball 35 times, or do they want to pass the ball?
My whole point, I don't want to hear, this is like house money now. No, it's not house money. You can't have 9 lose 8 out of 10. That's not house money.
I agree with you there.
That's where I think everyone's like, well, I'll be happy if we finish 7-10. How could you? How could? What team would? No team would. You can't lose 8 out of 9 and say, great season, let's get to the off season. That's a failure.
Right.
From
7-2
to that.
Yeah,
so
you're right.
That's what I'm saying. Pressure's on them now. Do I think they win? I'm telling you, Washington's a good team, man.
I know. I watch every week with them.
This is a must-win because they're not going to win in Minnesota. They're not going to beat Philly either shot. Then you got to go to Washington. The Colt game. The Colts are going to play hard. This is a must-win for them. I'm going to take Washington, but I mean, if the Giants are going to do anything, they better win this week.
Not to digress a second, how many wins? Because I'm looking at the NFC. How many wins do you think they need to get into the playoffs? 9 or 10? Because I'm looking at
9.
I think at 9 too. I mean, you look at the other
division. Team. You're going to have another team struggling. Just like Kurt said, I agree with him. Seahawks are going.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that may be what it comes down to. Giants and Seahawks.
Well, I got a good question with that later. So,
but you know what? But guys, am I wrong? And I'm going to start with Ryan. Like, am I wrong? Like, those are the 2 guys when you hear extend. Daniel Jones is up and Geno's up. Like, isn't this now your audition, right? Like playoffs. Let's see if you're clutch. If you lose 7 out of 9 and Geno, like, no, you're not getting the extension. No, am I wrong, Ryan? Isn't this the audition? Playoff time to get in?
Just to be 100% clear on your question, you're asking, like, isn't this like the audition time for players like Geno Smith and Daniel Jones to get extension or to not?
Yes, from their teams. When I mean an extension, I don't mean, I'm talking about like what they're saying. Daniel Jones, $28 million, $30 million. Geno Smith, $30 million a year, like 3-year deal.
I think it's more so that for Daniel Jones, I think that Seattle, where they're at right now, and with the capital they have from the Russell Wilson trade, I just don't see how they don't go for a new young like a rookie quarterback. I think that if anything, Geno Smith may be able to do what Ryan Tannehill did and cash in with a new team. Um, if he keeps it up, even though I think that I think might be a stretch, or a Kirk Cousins type, maybe a better comp. But no, I think that's more for Daniel Jones in terms of figuring out his long term future with the Giants. And again, it may be a situation where they're like, well, we're going to offer you an extension, but it's not going to be the 40, 45, 50. You may have to be willing to accept a 25, 26, 27 million dollars a year.
Right.
And we'll see where that gets, but I do definitely think that that's kind of what they're looking at right now, and kind of what this time frame is going to be used for. But I think when everyone hears an extension, quote unquote, I think that everyone's assuming they automatically think of the 40, 45, $50 million. I don't think you necessarily have to be willing to commit that, but you do have to figure out, because again, it's like they always say, you can't commit. I think it's 13% or whatever it is. You can't commit a certain amount of your salary cap in a year to your quarterback and still be able to build a realistic Super Bowl contender around him. So that's something that they're going to have to weigh is how much of that cap do they think he's going to be worth, and can they still build a Super Bowl team around him? Can they keep some of their offensive linemen, their offensive receiving core, a couple of their defensive players? Can they still do that with having him locked up at whatever his value ends up being? And then are they able to draft the right players to supplement some of the guys that they'll inevitably have to let go?
Sure. Let me jump ahead to one of my questions since we're talking playoffs. All right. The question I had was going to be odd team out. And I got 3 teams in the NFC. Okay. I'm going to start with you. You're going to tell me who's going to miss the playoffs out of Seattle, Giants, and Washington. Seattle and the Giants have 4 losses. Washington has 5. Washington is on their bye next week. They still got they're 7-5. And Cleveland, Seattle and the Giants are 7-4. Let me tell you which schedule you want me to read to you, Kurt, first.
Well, I know the Giants schedule. Give me Seattle's.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I'm on Washington. Let me give you Washington's.
Okay.
Okay. Giants twice. San Francisco on a Saturday night in San Francisco. Cleveland with Deshaun Watson. And they finish the season with Dallas.
Where?
Home.
Okay. That Dallas, that's the game where nobody will play for Dallas because they're not going to win the division. Philly will have that wrapped up by then. So I'm going to put Washington in. I think it's Giants and Seattle, which is Daniel Jones versus Geno Smith, which...
Seattle out of the 3 teams has maybe the easier schedule.
Seattle's got the tiebreaker too, right?
Seattle has the tiebreaker. They got the Rams twice.
That's big.
Carolina at home. They got the Jets at home. And their last team is a tough one. Let me pull it up. Bear with me.
See, I don't think they'll lose at home going forward.
Depends what the Jets need to do.
You know what, guys? I'm taking Seattle. I think it's because you really have that game up on them, right? Because of the tiebreaker. I'm going to take Seattle. I think the Giants' schedule is very, very hard. Very hard.
No question about it. The Giants
because Philly is going to play for home field, so Philly's not going to sit.
But here's the problem, Paul. I think Washington's out because Washington's 1 game behind us right now. So we have to win one of those 2 against Washington.
Right. You have to win one of the 2.
And 2 game advantage or
and one of those 2.
Advantage.
Your problem is you said Dallas and Washington, that game ain't going to mean anything. Well, there's a very good chance Philly's going to have home field locked up last game of the season. and Philly might not be playing anybody. So there's possibly another win for the Giants right there. 2, give the Colts 3,
Yeah.
and then, there's my 3 wins for the Giants, and that gets them in over Washington.
Okay.
If that Giant Eagle game at the end of the year was at home, I would agree with you. But the fact that it's still in Philadelphia, it makes it even harder to try and win that game. And I hear what you're saying. The Eagles may not play all their guys, but Doug Peterson is the coach now. But I don't know. I mean, if I can just jump in, I did sort of an overview of the playoffs, and I also had Washington in with the Giants and Seattle possibly on the outside looking at one of those 2 teams. And that tiebreaker that Seattle has over the Giants beating them is going to be a big consideration. And
You really got to get 2 up on Seattle. You know what I'm saying? You got to get
exactly.
that 2 to where it's kind of like, all right, if we lose, who cares? But otherwise, that's
right. And the fact that the Rams are horrible. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if Stafford doesn't play the rest of the year with all his injuries and everything. So you have the Rams twice, the Jets on the road against Seattle, and then the Panthers at Seattle. That's a hard schedule for the Giants to overcome at this point.
Guys, real quick, you ready for Eddie Murphy? Eddie Murphy's going to start a firecracker. I don't even want to read this comment for Ryan. Okay? I don't want to read it. Eddie Murphy, a Giant fan, Kenny, has just said the Philadelphia Eagles are a fraud team. Mr. Scoops, you've been nice to Giant fans, but how are you going to answer that comment?
With what evidence whatsoever?
That the Eagles are a fraud team.
No, I'm saying with what evidence whatsoever is he saying that?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
If I can just quickly interject, I've seen that on some other types of sites and stuff, and I just chuckle. I mean,
I see it also, but I think it's just clickbait, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, you win 10 out of 11 games. I don't care. You run for almost 400 yards in an NFL game. I mean, team.
I understood hearing it when it was like week 4, week 5, week 6. We're 11 games in right now, and honestly, it was. I'm not a big blame the refs guy, but you could argue that there was one blown call away from being 11-0. I'm not really seeing where he's coming from with that. But if he wants to say more and I can understand where he's coming from, then be my guest.
See, here's a comment I disagree with Eddie. He's saying there's no competition in the NFC. It's so weak. I disagree with him. I think the best 2 rosters in football are NFC teams. Hands down, the 49ers are the best roster in football. Besides their quarterback. If they don't win, it's because their quarterback. And I'm going to say this secondly. The Dallas Cowboys, especially, and I think they're going to get Beckham. If they get Odell Beckham, again, besides their quarterback, well, I mean, I'm going to put Philly in. I mean, Philly's rosters, Philly's too. But those 3 teams, Philly, the Niners, and Dallas, those rosters are weak. I mean, come on. Like,
beat the Vikings by 17, beat the Lions in Detroit by 3, the same number that Buffalo just beat beat them by. I beat Dallas by 9. I'm not seeing.
I'm sorry. I think the Niners, the Eagles, and I'm going to put Dallas because of their defense and run game. I'm going to put those top 3 teams maybe in football. I mean, Buffalo, I'm still waiting for it, right? Kansas City still has no defense. So I'm sorry. I'm an AFC guy, but I don't know. I think those NFC 3 teams are better than what the AFC's got. Kenny?
I can't believe you guys are just remember, Washington's 1 game behind, so it all going to come down to who's got the tiebreaker. Because if I got Washington winning 3 games out of their final 5, so that's 3-2 for Washington. Realistic, that puts them at 10-7. I got them losing 1 game to the Giants, and I got them losing.
But Paul nailed it because it really matters about you have to win 1. If you lose 2 to Washington, the Giants aren't going to get in because that's those head-to-head is like 2 games. So you have, even though you're saying win 3, one has to be Washington. If the Giants beat Washington once, they'll be okay. But if they
But
lose
it's
both,
very possible. It's very possible that Washington can go 2-3 in these final 5 games. You got Dallas, which could mean something. You can't say it's not going to be a meaningful game. It could be a meaningful
I just think
game.
if Dallas is in a Week 17 game and they know Philly won the division, they're gonna go to Tampa, say the next week, right? I mean, they're not gonna play those guys. Why would you play those guys?
I agree. But then you also get in Cleveland with Deshaun Watson, who may be
Right.
fighting for a
Is
playoff
that
spot too.
is that game at Cleveland or
It's in Washington.
In
So
Washington.
they don't have an easy schedule neither. So I do think it's going to come. I think it's going to come down to a tiebreaker. I really do.
That's
I
why
see all three of these
these
teams.
games matter.
All 3 of these teams realistically going 10-7,
So
and then it's all going to come down to tiebreakers. So Seattle has the tiebreaker over the Giants. The Washington Giant games are going to be huge.
So basically, you're saying 2 out of 3 of Geno Smith, Daniel Jones, and Taylor, whatever his name is, Heineke, are going to make the playoffs.
Yeah,
Oh my God!
That's
You
what I
can't-
would agree to.
Aaron Rodgers. They got 8 losses. They're not going to win out. All joking aside, the Falcons. They're done. Who else is there? Saints. They ain't got a shot. Rams are done. Cardinals are done. Who else is there, Kurt?
Who would these teams play in the playoffs? Like Philly, and
Tampa.
I think-
my God, San Francisco against those guys. I
It's
gotta
a
talk.
John-
I gotta talk to Jen. We gotta take out a mortgage loan. San Fran versus Gino or Daniel Jones in a playoff. They're seriously, they might not get 100 yards of offense.
Let's see how good you guys are. Let's do the AFC real quick. AFC, I narrowed it down. I narrowed 4 teams for 2 spots, Kurt.
Go ahead.
Jets,
Yep.
Bengals,
Yep.
Chargers, Patriots.
Okay.
Who's it? Two of those are in and 2 are out.
All right. Can I go first?
Yeah, I'll let
ahead.
you go first.
I'm definitely going to take Cincy. They're going to be in because Joe Burrow. I mean, I want to take the Chargers, but they just do stupid stuff. Like, I think if they're healthy, they're the next best team. Patriots, I think, are going to be out. I think the Patriots are going to slide. I'm going to take the Patriots out. You know what? I'm going to go Chargers, and I'm going to go Cincy.
Could I go next, Kurt?
Go ahead, Paul.
All right.
Excuse me.
I did this before. I have the Dolphins, Bills, Ravens. I put the Bengals in. I have the Titans, but like you said earlier, no one else is winning that division or even making the playoffs in that division. And then obviously the Chiefs in the AFC West. And then I said it comes down to the Jets or the Chargers. And as much as like I want to think the Chargers are good enough, like Kurt just said, he nailed it. They just don't do enough. And as crazy as this sounds, I can see the Jets sneaking in as that 7th.
They got a
team.
tough schedule,
Playoffs.
Paul.
Oh, I know. But somehow their defense is pretty good. I think they may make plays. This kid White, I'm not saying he's the second coming of John Elway, but you know what? They believe in this kid. I think that confidence that they didn't have with Zach Wilson, they think they like this kid, that they support him, and I think they'll run their offense sufficiently enough that they can win, say maybe 3 more games and sneak in as that last playoff spot.
You know
in
what,
the
Paul?
AFC.
I have ultimate respect for Joe Doug. Did Joe Douglas draft Zach Wilson?
Yes.
Okay, I have the ultimate respect for him. And how do you say his name? Saleh? How do you Saleh?
Robert Saleh.
Salah. I have ultimate respect for them because, you know, a lot of people would be like, well, that's my pick. We got to develop him. And they're not doing that. You know, like it looks bad. We wasted a 2nd-round pick on this quarterback. But you know what? Like they got a room of 52 other players that they owe and say, listen, we have a quarterback here who's literally losing games for us. And you know what? We're not doing that. So ultimate respect. There's not a lot of teams that would do that, especially general manager, where they're going to force feed, play this kid. you got to respect that, guys, because it doesn't happen a lot, and it's the right move that they did.
Ryan, who's in, who's out?
I don't think I got a chance to say for the NFC.
That's right, you didn't. I'm sorry.
It's all right. So just to go over that one real quick, I think that the best of those three teams is Washington, and I think like you said, the tiebreaker and a couple of other things. I think that it's going to be the Giants who are going to be kind of on the bottom of those three. But I have seen the Giants play this season, and they're not to be counted out by any stretch. That's how I see it going right now. And then on the AFC side of things, I think that the Cincinnati Bengals are my first pick in. And then after that, I'm going to take the New York Jets. I think that they are very well coached. And I think that they have their schedule, I think, even though it's difficult, I think that some of the hardest games that they have to win, they already have won in a few cases. So I think that I think it's going to be the Bengals and the Jets coming out of the AFC.
I'd love to agree with you guys, but I'm going to disagree. I'm going to throw the Bengals in there, but I'm going to throw the Chargers in there. Looking at their schedule, I can't see them losing more than 2 games down this stretch. Vegas, Miami, those might be the 2 losses. Then you get Tennessee at home, Indianapolis on Monday night, the Rams at home, and at Denver to end the season.
Yeah,
And
but that could be
aside.
Nathaniel Hackett's first. They'll play tough for Hackett that game before they
Yeah,
fire
it's
him
true.
the next day.
That's true. But here's the wild card, and I didn't add this team: the Browns. The Browns could be the wild card here. At Houston, at Cincinnati, Baltimore at home. They always play tough, and now you got your quarterback now. New Orleans at home, at Washington, at Pittsburgh to end the season. That could be a 5-1 record going into the final 6, and that could sneak them into the playoffs.
I'll tell you all something. I would not. I know that it's been a struggle this year with if their defense gets right. I'm not counting out a Watson-led offense under Coach Stefanski by any stretch.
Yeah, I just realized that. That's tough.
Did you guys see they're gonna have 10 women that accused him in the in Houston? Can you imagine him coming out of that tunnel it's gonna be absurd on Sun. Seriously, we're joking.
Yeah.
But,
I know it's not a
those
joke.
people aren't they're not gonna tell
not a
those
joke.
people don't say anything. I mean, they're gonna put the stuff, the signs and all this stuff. It's gonna be crazy.
It's gonna be ugly.
Yeah.
It's gonna be ugly. Definitely. We'll just do picks on these upcoming games, and then I got a couple of questions to finish the show.
And by the way,
off.
Eddie Murphy saying if Zach Wilson didn't make that one comment after the Patriot game, he's saying Wilson would probably still be the starter.
I think
agree.
he's right. I think he's right. Kurt, we'll do these rapid fire 1, 2, 3, and then I'll go Paul and Ryan.
Okay.
Jets Vikings. Kurt, who's going to win?
Vikings.
Chiefs Bengals.
Where's that game?
I believe
I think it's Cincinnati.
I'm going to take
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati. Chase comes back. I'll take Cincinnati.
a real good game. 49ers against Miami.
Where's that?
Miami. San Francisco, right?
Oh, San
Francisco.
Francisco.
Yeah.
They'll shut that right down. San Francisco.
Yeah.
Same questions, Paul. Jets, Vikings.
Vikings.
Chiefs, Bengals.
I'm going to go with Kansas City.
49ers,
Yeah.
Dolphins.
49ers.
Ryan, same ones. Jets, Vikings.
Close, but I'll take the Vikings.
Chiefs, Bengals.
Yeah, give me the Chiefs.
49ers, Dolphins.
Dolphins. I will take the. That's a tough one. I'll take the 49ers.
I'm going to take Dolphins in that. McDaniel, he's got that team rolling. He's going to be fired up going back to San Francisco. I'll take the road upset there. I'll take the Vikings like everybody else. And I'm going to take the Chiefs with Ryan against Cincinnati. 2 quick questions. We got about 5 minutes, Kurt. I'll start this topic with you. Aaron Rodgers, Kurt, banged up last week. Do you think he should be two-part question? Do you think he should be? Do you think he should sit out on Sunday and the season? And B, where do you think he's going to play next year?
When you say I'm saying him saying I should sit out, or Green Bay sitting him?
Should Green Bay sit him out for this game and or the season? And should Green Bay look to trade him next year?
I'm going to say this. I'm going to say no for one reason, because if Green Bay does that, right, and regardless of how Jordan Love looks, but just say Jordan Love looks decent, then I think that they lose a lot of, like, what's the word? I can't think of. Leverage, right? Because it's like, well, you're going to play Jordan Love anyway. What's the point next year? Like, let him play. He's making $50 million. Let him play, right? I think he is playing. He's saying he's going to play. I mean, he's the starting quarterback. Why not? Where is he going to play? Listen, if I'm your New York Football Giants, I'm going to get him. If I'm the Jets, I'm going to get him. I can tell you right now, if the 49ers don't win the Super Bowl, I'm going to get him. If the Cowboys don't win the Super Bowl, I'm going to get him. I'm sorry. The windows for teams are this small in the NFL. 49ers have 49ers probably had the best roster in football for probably the last 4 years, but they didn't win because of their quarterback. This window is going to close. Deebo Samuel, Kittles, McCaffrey. I'm sorry. You give me Aaron Rodgers any day of the week, or Tom Brady. I'll send Garoppolo, let him do commercials. And the Dallas, if they can't win, sorry, Dak. Bye-bye. Come on in, Rodgers. I'm serious. Like, these teams, Dallas won what, 93? And San Fran won in what, 95? Come on, man. I'm not playing games anymore with these teams. Get him out of there. Put him there. If I'm the Giants, I'm getting him. If I'm the Jets, I'm getting him. He's still the second and third best quarterback in football.
You guys agree with that, or you want to add anything?
I will say, unless he's so severely injured, he's going to play. He wants to play. He came out and said, if injury aside, I want to play Sunday and I want to play through the rest of the year. So unless his rib injury is just a serious, so that they wouldn't allow him to play, he is going to come out and play on Sunday and through the rest of the year. That's number one. In terms of where he will play next year, I guess I can agree with Kurt, but with that $50 million nugget that he's carrying, not too many teams can fit that in to that salary cap, and that could be the biggest problem with him. I mean, you talk about opportunities closing quickly. Well, Green Bay is in that exact situation with the opportunity for them to win and get into a Super Bowl again with him. So I think he will stay ultimately, because not too many teams would be able to fit him in, but I don't necessarily disagree with you, Kurt, in terms of some teams that have that window to go out and see if they could bring him in.
Yep.
You got anything, Ryan? And I'll go to the next question. Will be the last question in the way.
Can you please restate the question just so I can respond to what was actually asked?
Yeah, just Aaron Rodgers. Should he sit out? Should the Packers sit him out on Sunday and or the season? And B, do you think Rodgers will stay in Green Bay next year?
Gotcha. So if I were Matt LaFleur, I would sit him and see what I have in Jordan Love, because a lot of people, I think, left him, sort of for the scrap heap. But I think he showed a little bit when he was out there that maybe he's got something to work with. I think that the Packers have to see at some point. They spent a first rounder on this guy. You got nothing to play for now. This is exactly the time when you see what Jordan Love has, in my opinion. In terms of next season, I don't think that he'll be in Green Bay next season if Jordan Love comes out and performs, decently over the next few weeks. It was brought up obviously that is a big factor in terms of, what teams can afford him. So I'd be looking, at a team that's drafted really well recently, particularly on offense, so that they have a lot of those younger guys on rookie scale contracts, so that they don't have to go out and spend a ton of money, and they can afford to allocate that money to one position. Not really any specific team coming to mind right now, but if you can find a team that needs a quarterback, but that has solid, kind of almost the situation that Denver was in before they went out and got Russell Wilson.
Kenny, I'm going to ask you guys a crazy question. If you're Denver and you're Green Bay, would you trade Russell Wilson for Aaron Rodgers?
Oh my God!
I had a feeling you were going to go there.
So did I.
But I'm dead serious, Paul. Would you do it if for on both side teams?
Well, my follow-up question to you would be: do I keep Nathaniel Hackett?
This
or
is
he's
as
not the
crazy.
coach?
This is as crazy if I've ever said this, and I said this to Jen last night. We're talking about this. I don't want Nathaniel Hackett, but the only way I would trade Russell Wilson for Aaron Rodgers is if you keep Nathaniel Hackett, because then it's just there's your offense, nothing changes. But
Right.
I'm not doing it, bringing somebody in and Aaron Rodgers is going to learn another offense. But would
Yeah.
you do it if you were both teams? Would you do that?
If I had a crystal ball and I knew that Nathaniel Hackett was going to continue as the coach, and with the opportunity to bring in Aaron Rodgers, who he played under, absolutely, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Now, would you do it if you're Green Bay?
No. after seeing how Russell Wilson has played this year, I wouldn't touch him with the 10-foot ball.
Mr. Scoops,
Yes.
would you do it?
Like you said, that is the only manner in which I would keep Hackett as coach. But there's already rumors of locker room discord right now. I can't imagine bringing in someone who's not necessarily known for their sort of geniality. I just don't think that that's a move that I would make if I were Denver right now. I'm sure that there's ways in which it could work on a conceptual basis for both teams, but if I were Denver, I'm not pulling the plug on that.
Kenny?
No, and I'm not trying to be funny, but Russell Wilson's 32 years old, 7 years left. You got a quarterback that you drafted 3 years ago that you still want to develop like you did with Aaron Rodgers and make him the quarterback of the future. So my
question is, do you? I mean, here's the thing. Okay,
you're not doing it if you're Green Bay, because Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers only got 3 years left before he retires.
Green Bay easily would have had 3 first-round picks for Aaron Rodgers this year.
And they're not getting it from Denver.
No. But what I'm saying is, you turned that down because you didn't believe in Jordan Love. Let's be totally realistic. They know that they don't. Matt LaFleur is not. I'm sorry, Matt LaFleur is not going to be 14-2. 13-3, and then say, okay, well, let's just build with this Jordan Love guy. So that's the only, they know in their how. I mean, can you imagine if Jordan Love and now you had 3 number 1 picks to go along with him? I just don't believe they believe in him. They saw him last year. They saw him.
Seattle's going to have 3 number 1 picks.
They have 2 number 1. Well, one more.
2 number 1s. So they didn't believe in Russell Wilson, I guess.
I heard the best thing on Russell Wilson this week, and this is the only thing I'll say about the Broncos until they fire Hackett. But Mark Schlereth, the guy's phenomenal. He does the Fox games. He does the Denver radio. Just phenomenal. And somebody said to him, we need to know, is it the offense or if it's Russell Wilson? He said, go watch week 1 when Russell Wilson will never play another game with more pressure on him. Going back to Seattle, 7 months of a thing. And Russ was just phenomenal in that game. Yeah, they lost the game, 340 yards, whatever it was, 70, 80%. And, where's that game plan? They don't do that anymore? This whole thing of Russell Wilson's no good anymore. It's comical. It's just like when it's comical when, look at Geno Smith. Geno Smith's Geno Smith. He's not going to be, just like I'm watching Julius Randle. Julius Randle's not going to turn into Kevin Durant, right? All of a sudden now, trade Randle. We got to get him out of here because he's Julius Randle. What did you expect? He's Julius Randle. He's Geno Smith. Russell Wilson's a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's 32 years old, whatever he is, 30, whatever he is, 34 years. Listen,
You gotta run what's good for this guy. This offense is not. And why did you change it from week one? What are we doing? It's comical. Every week it's a different offense with him. But he never runs what he ran in Seattle. Nothing that he ran as a Pro Bowl. We're gonna run him all different stuff. It's comical.
Ryan alluded to this dissension in the locker room. What I find interesting is that the players seem like they're supporting Hackett, but a lot of them have sort of gone the other way with Russell Wilson, which is striking. I mean, how do you feel? What do you think about that?
They were talking about that today, and they were saying, these reports, like the one person that came out with that report is very close to George Payton, and George Payton is, covering his you-know-what because he's still tied to the hip with Nathaniel Hackett, right? So the players came out today, and a bunch of them were just like, it's a joke. This guy, we respect this guy, yada, yada. Listen, they've had a horrible season. But I'm sorry, on the offensive side of the ball, this is all on the coaching and the system. I'm sorry, it is. The offensive line stinks, and that's where we talk with our Colorado guys and draft O-lineman. No. This got to be for next offseason. I don't want 4 rookies on the offensive line. Go get me real players via trade. I don't care if I got to sign free agents. I want veterans in front of this guy. We did what you want. Draft and develop the offensive linemen. Bowles holds every time. Reisner's no good anymore. Cushenberry, he can't play center. The right guard, right tack. No, not when you have Russell Wilson or an Aaron Rodgers. You don't put 5 rookies there. What is that going to do? We'll be good for the next 19 years. Yeah, but for the first 16, you're going to stink because they're terrible. I'm sorry. I'm all in on Russell Wilson. I'm 1,000%.
You gotta be. You have no choice.
Listen, but if you give me, and again, I'm not a Brady guy, but if you give me Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, if you give me those 3 guys, and my life depends on those 3, or you're going to turn around and say, Geno Smith, Daniel Jones, Mac, Justin Fields. I'm sorry. I'll take those guys till they're 60, man. Winners, proven, they know what to do. Those other guys?
Brady's going to play until he's 60.
No way. I'll take those guys.
Kurt's got 1 year, because by this time next year, Russell Wilson has his offensive coordinator or coach.
Then it's on Russ. Then it's on him, Kenny.
If he's putting up these same stats, I better not hear Hall of Fame quarterback. I better not hear any of that stuff.
You won't.
Okay? Because you could say he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. That's in the past. This year, he's not in the Hall of Fame if he retires tomorrow. I'm sorry. Not by what his stats are this year. Come back next year and put up some numbers, and then maybe we'll talk Hall of Fame.
So if you need a win, your life depended on you could win a $10 million bet. You're going to take Russell Wilson. Don't say Bronco. I'm just saying as a quarterback. You're going to start your team with this quarterback. Then we'll build the players around. You're going to put your money on. You're going to put $10 million on the line. You're going to take Geno Smith over Russell Wilson? I'm not. There's no way I'm not. No way. Anybody on this panel?
Put $10 million in front of me. It might be a harder decision than you think.
You're out of your mind.
Geno Smith. Because I was a big Russell Wilson guy on the offseason, and I said, man, if there was a way the Giants can get him, I wanted him.
I remember that.
But you know what? I'm watching these Bronco games each week, like you are, Kurt.
Yeah.
I'm not watching them on a big screen. I'm watching them on the Dofu app because you ain't got no primetime games. But
right.
I'm watching a quarterback that's struggling bad, and it's part the offense, part the offensive line, but part because he's holding that ball too long, and he's not has the confidence in himself anymore.
But he's never done that. That's not the offense he ran. He's a boot quarterback.
He's a professional.
I don't understand.
He's a professional.
In all seriousness, he probably is a top 3 quarterback, maybe, I don't know, I'm not all time, but in the past 20 years, deep ball passer. We never throw the ball deep. We never throw it deep. Why? What are he doing? Throw it up to Metcalf. Throw it up to Lockett. Throw it up to Baldwin. That's what he is. He's a deep ball quarterback. We don't throw deep. We throw 2-yard outs. Why? That's not coaching. I'm sorry. I was an offensive coordinator in high
Coach,
school.
it
But
is
wait, I'm sorry,
coaching.
but you just cannot, like, we joke around with like wing T, like you just can't put, okay, we're running a wing T quarterback with the run and shoot quarter. Like it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. And we say this all the time for high school. We talk about it on our high school show. You can't look at your team and just say, we're a wing T team. We're gonna run the wing T. But I got, all kinds of skilled receivers out there and they're gonna block. What's the point of that? Or just like Sis said, he coached somewhere, and asked Sis, he's probably why he's gonna laugh. But he said he was at a high school where his quarterback couldn't throw 10 yards and they're running run and shoot. No wonder why you're getting beat 60-0. If you're run and shoot, you gotta throw. The quarterback can't throw 10 yards.
Why
That's on the
in
coach.
the hell? Why in the hell would you make that trade in the offseason if you know he ain't that type of quarterback with this system?
But wait. But isn't that the coach's the coach? So if
You want the coach to change his offensive system that he had in Green Bay.
So time out. I'm just going to throw this out there then. Just say the trading deadline is tomorrow, and the Giants acquire Aaron Rodgers. They're going to be running quarterback power with Aaron Rodgers because that's what Dable does, right? He runs his quarterback. You're going to run. You're not going to change it for Aaron Rodgers. You're going to run.
You're going to change it
You're going to run
overnight?
the Buffalo offense with running Aaron Rodgers on QB sweeps.
Okay, I'm going to change the plays right now. Okay.
No.
Here's my 10-page list for you to study overnight. Here you go, Russ. Here's the 10-page offense. You can't. That's his offense. That's not Hackett's fault. It's not Russell Wilson's fault.
It's a bad
This is where you
fit.
start blaming Peyton.
Well,
This is where you start blaming
But
Peyton.
I'm sorry. If I could go, if I'm gonna go get Aaron Rodgers next year, I don't care what team I am. Say I'm the Giants, I'm gonna go get Aaron Rodgers. Mike, what's his name? Kafka. We're not running that garbage. We're running. Let's go. You can't run. You can't. Their offense is, I'm gonna run the quarterback. You can't run Aaron Rodgers. But you're not gonna sign Aaron Rodgers or trade for him because he don't fit what Dable does. Dable, I'm looking at Dable saying, you better run something for this guy because I'm not losing out on him for you. Same thing. I'm gonna let Nathaniel Hackett do whatever he wants. I'm not gonna go get Russell Wilson. No, you make it work with Russ. Otherwise, you're gone. That's how it should work. Listen, all these teams are doing it. Don't you think the Phillies?
Just looking at it
Wait.
realistically.
Do the Philadelphia Eagles? Don't you think the Philadelphia Eagles are running something that fits Jalen Hurts? Like, yes. That's the perfect offense for him. Perfect.
Kurt, I'm looking at it realistically, and then we'll end the show. There's a reason why a franchise quarterback got traded. Not free agent. They traded him to the Broncos. They said, take him from us, please.
Okay.
And without saying it, they said it, Kurt. And I'm a Russell Wilson. I back Russell Wilson. I like Russell Wilson. I wanted him on the Giants. I truly think there's something wrong with him. The injury maybe have hurt him more than expected. And I think it's part offense, and I think it's part Russ Wilson. I think it's closer to 50-50 than you think, Kurt. And I hate to say that. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong for you and Dave and Matt Staffiero and all the Bronco fans. Keith, I hope I'm wrong. But I think it's more 50-50 than you think.
But if that's so true, why then, why is Ohtani maybe going to get traded? Why does James Harden get traded? Why do all those guys get traded? Think about it. If I'm the Angels, Ohtani might be the best baseball player in baseball. Why would I entertain a trade? He was there a long time. I'm not going to say Russ is the easiest guy to get along with, but they got a haul for that. They got a lot of picks for him. Just like Green Bay. Oh, they're going to trade Aaron. Listen, Aaron, you're going to tell me Jordan Love's better than Aaron Rodgers? No, but why would they trade him? Sometimes it just ends. It's got to end its course. It's just, and those guys were Pete Carroll and him together, LaFleur and Rodgers together. But I'm sorry. I'm just, I totally disagree with you though, Kenny, okay, I'm running Hackett's offense. No. I could get Russell Wilson. You adjust to him. Just like you're saying. Dable's kind of running a little thing what he did with Josh Allen. You go get, I'm going to throw it out there, Aaron Rodgers. You're not going to run that off. Okay, QB sweep with Aaron Rodgers. No. But you're not going to go and say, I can't get him. He can't fit Dable's offense. You guys are going to be out of your mind. Out of your mind. You wouldn't take him, Paul? You wouldn't take Aaron Rodgers?
Absolutely. It just dawned on me. I think a classic example of all of this, and Ryan, you might agree with me. Look at the offense Andy Reid ran in Philadelphia when he was the coach of the Eagles versus what they're doing now with he gets a guy who arguably is now the best quarterback in football and the kind of offense that they're running. Andy Reid did not run the kind of offense that he's running now in Kansas City as he was in Philadelphia.
Yep.
So basically, Kurt, what you're saying is essentially what I just suggested. He had a guy now that he's saying, hey, if I run the offense I was running previously, I don't have the advantage of having maybe arguably the best quarterback in football. I got to tail my offensive scheme to this kid who is going to be, perhaps the best quarterback. And as we've seen the last 5-6 years, he has been. So I think a lot of that is what you're saying is definitely true.
Like we talk about Lamar Jackson. I'm sorry, Ryan, real quick. We're talking about Lamar Jackson. You're saying, Paul, Kenny was saying, possibility. Lamar Jackson in the Giants and Dable's offense would be unbelievable. But you're not going to put Lamar Jackson and go play with Hackett. I mean, you can't read a defense like that, like those 6 reads. He'd be perfect in Dable's. It's all the coach has to adjust to the quarterback. If you don't, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I'm sorry, Ryan, cut you off.
So I agree with what you and Paul are saying. Just look at, you want to go down the current Eagles chart. You've got, Shane Steichen doing the play calling. He's been in the Chargers, and then I think he was with Sirianni in Indianapolis. So you're talking Phillip Rivers. They're not running the same offense with Jalen Hurts that they did with Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers is a statue.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, one of the reasons why Buffalo a couple of years ago wanted Greg Roman was seeing what he had done with Lamar in Baltimore. Excuse me. So I think that you have to have, in my opinion, an ability as a coach, especially as an offensive coach, and especially in this day and age, to not necessarily not run the offense that you're used to, but you have to be able to implement the personnel that you have and play to their strength. I mean, look at what Philadelphia did last year. I know this is probably the 5th time I mentioned this on the show, but they were 5th, 6th, 7th week into the season. They were just like, you know what? This is not working.
Yep.
We kick the play calling over to Shane Steichen, and they went run heavy. They hadn't been a run heavy offense in I don't know how long. The closest they had ever been was when Chip Kelly was there, at least the closest since I started watching the team. And they became a top offense, almost overnight because they were playing to the strengths of the personnel that they had, and that's what I think you have to do. Either if you're if you're Nate Hackett in Denver, you have to do that for Russell Wilson, or you have to bring in someone who can. And that's why I go back to the fact that, what I said a couple weeks ago, I don't believe that if it was ultimately going to be Russell Wilson and not Aaron Rodgers that Denver acquired, I don't believe they would have hired Nathaniel Hackett. I think that they hired Nathaniel Hackett believing that they were going to have Aaron Rodgers at quarterback.
Yep. And then listen, you do it. You got a chance to get that quarterback. You got to get it. You got to make it work. But I just disagree with Kenny, where it's like,
so do I.
The quarterback has to adjust to the coach. Absolutely not. Just absolutely.
No, you're just putting too much. You're putting no blame on the quarterback, and to me, that's blinders are on. That's what I'm glad I'm not in that situation.
Yeah,
I'm glad.
I think there's definitely some blame to be held by Russell Wilson, especially. I mean, what's kind of weird to me now is now you've got former teammates coming out and saying, things were kind of pampered for him in Seattle and things like that.
Right.
There's
definitely blame.
I'm not saying Hackett takes 100% of the blame, but when you make the commitment that you do to Denver or to rather
Russ.
to absorb Russ and absorb that contract, you know,
You do everything to Pete. You do everything around him.
I'm expecting you, if you're George Payton and if you're the new ownership, I'm expecting that they have done their research to say we're absorbing this guy not just for his talent but for everything. And you know, they either had to have known about whatever was going on in Seattle off the field. They either had to have known about it and accepted it, or they didn't know about it. And in that case, then that's a glaring red flag on them as having just taken over as a regime. I don't think that you can look at this in any way other than Nate Hackett, George Payton, and Russ all deserving some share
Yep.
of the fall for this season. But I mean, we've all said it before. Who is the one come hell or high water that you're committed to for the next 5 years? It's Russell Wilson.
Well,
It's not George Payton.
Kenny, we'll
And
get
it's
the
not-
final thoughts. I want to read 2 comments, but I want to ask Ryan one more question. Rich Katwinka, better to sell early than keep guys past their prime. See Lawrence Taylor, Patrick Ewing. Keith saying this offense was supposed to play to the strength of the players. That isn't happening for Wilson. And Rich is saying Bill Parcells had 3 different systems with the Giants. You have to adjust for the talent you have on the team. But let me ask you this, Ryan.
So
What has Nathaniel Hackett done in his career?
I don't know what control he had over in Green Bay, so I can't really tell you a ton of. Was
Not
he there
much,
when they
right? Not much.
Was he there when they won the Super Bowl 15 years ago? I have no idea.
No, not much.
Okay,
What has
no.
Russell Wilson done for his career?
He's won a Super Bowl.
Won a Super Bowl, got to another 9-time Pro Bowler. That's the guy I'm
Yeah.
working for. I'm not adjusting my system for Nathaniel Hackett. No.
No.
He's not Bill Parcells. No.
No, it's
No.
I mean we saw when Peyton Manning went to Denver. I mean, you know, he had a lot more sway in that than I think Wade Phillips or John Fox did, whoever it was at the time.
Right. But you know what? They merged the system and they weren't for him. Kenny, let's do final thoughts. Kenny, Mr. Rosen, you go first.
Great show, guys. I think we all had wonderful input into the show today. I think we all had fantastic comments and insight. So I appreciate everyone. Great show. Looking forward to this weekend. As we said before, as a Giants fan, a must win. We really need this game, and looking forward to the college playoffs also on Saturday.
I'll go next, Mr. Kirkpatrick. Great show tonight. Great college football thing. I'm pumped to watch a little college football. Listen, 6 weeks left in Denver season. We could sit here all day. Kenny, I want you to narrate. We got to get with the Denver guys, and we got to have this conversation. Best thing I heard, though, this week is I heard it on D-Mac's show today, actually yesterday, and he said he was talking about some kind of 2 celebrities bought some kind of soccer team, and he said they had no idea anything about soccer, but they're 2 celebrities that were absolutely filthy rich. What did they do? They used their money and they said, go get me that best player, go get me that best coach. In 1 year, they went from last place to there. This is what the Waltons Penners have to do in Denver. This is why we have the richest owner in football. Okay? The richest owners in football. Go get the coach. Listen, he wants $6 million. Here's 10. Write it out. Get the check. Get this guy here. You got talent. You got a Super Bowl talent around. You got a Super Bowl Hall of Famer as a quarterback. Get rid of this nightmare. It was a mistake. Admit it. Wash your hands and let's go. Mr. Ryan Scoops.
Obviously, I'm excited for what's happening this weekend. Looking forward to Major League Baseball winter meetings. Hopefully, when I'm on the show with you guys next, we're talking about a new deal for Yankees outfielder Aaron Judge, preferably with the captaincy, but we'll see. Just want to give a quick shout out. Sunday, December 4th, my grandfather's birthday, lifelong Cleveland Browns fan. So if there's ever a moment where I wonder, can I do something? I remember he's been a Browns fan for 70 years.
Oh, wow.
And
Happy
fun
birthday.
fact.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. Happy
Fun
birthday.
fact, real quick. We traced back the first game he ever listened to for Cleveland. They played my Philadelphia Eagles. So, little fun tidbit there. Looking forward to him hopefully getting a win for his Cleveland Browns on Sunday when they face the Houston Texans.
There you go.
Nice.
Awesome. And Mr. Kirkpatrick.
Well, I just thought of something. Maybe next week we go on a half hour early, Kurt. we're doing college football bowl special, and then towards the end of the show, we can get back into our little NFL and
Could do that.
anything else that's going
good.
on.
I like it.
Maybe we'll have a little contest, fun little contest. We'll pick the bowl games. No spreads. We'll just pick the winners.
Yeah.
That'd be
We'll
fun.
go- and
Sounds good.
I'll write all the games down, and we'll go up and down the line. My final thoughts. Great show, guys. And Kurt, I don't want to hear it. There better be instant results now after this Denver Bronco talk. Russell Wilson, you want your coach, you want your offense. You better make a deep run in the playoffs next year, or it's a complete failure for Russell Wilson and the Broncos, Kurt.
One.
And mark this date down, 11/30/2022. Kurt said yes.
Kenny,
Epic failure if he doesn't produce next year with new system.
Kenny, 1,000% agree with you. I am on board with you, 1,000%. Because if he doesn't do it, then it might be time to get rid of Russ next year.
I'm gonna write this date down.
Write it down.
I'm gonna
Audio.
write that quote.
Take the
and
audio
it's going in the
clip
safe.
and write it
and
down.
it's going in the vault. It's going in the vault until next year.
Make it your ringtone.
When the Broncos
Kenny.
are out of it in October next year, I get to pull this out of the vault, and we can go from there.
Mr. Kirkpatrick.
Have a good night, everybody.
Mr. Kirkpatrick, I love you to death. But the worst statement you ever made tonight was the quarterback's got to adjust to the coach. No way. No way.
No,
Never. Never. And not a guy like Nathaniel Hackett. No. No. Sorry. That's my last statement. I'll see you guys next week.
See ya.